In 330 CE, Roman Emperor Constantine the Great found a trading colony called Byzantium and thought it was the perfect place for its new capital. He renamed it Constantinople, and it soon became one of the world's most prosperous cities for the next 1,000 years. But even though Constantinople was a great city, it faced many challenges. In 1204, the Crusaders broke into the city and destroyed everything they could. They took all the valuable items, burned buildings, and killed many. By the sack of Constantinople, Western civilization suffered a great loss greater than the burning of the Library of Alexandria in the 4th century or the sack of Rome in the 5th. Perhaps the most catastrophic single loss in all of history, quotes historian J.J. Norwich. After the Crusaders left, a man named Michael VIII Palaiologos came and took back Constantinople in 1261. But the city and the Roman Empire was never quite the same again. The city was depopulated, its economy on the verge of collapse, and its army made up of foreign mercenaries. By 1453, only 50,000 people lived in the city, a far cry from its height of 500,000. In Constantinople, there were many job opportunities for everyone, including women. However, women were not paid as much as men, and often had to take on 2 jobs if they lived alone. Some of the jobs women had were as midwives, textile workers, cooks, actresses, and prostitutes. Farming was a common job in Constantinople. With fewer people in the city, farmers could grow crops on small plots of land and within the city walls. In return for some of the crops or their profit, the farmers were given their own land. Another popular job was working in a Greek restaurant or bar. If the bar was successful, the owner could make lots of money. Tradesmen and craftsmen also went door to door, offering to repair or add on to homes. Joining the army was easy to do, but the emperor focused more on hiring mercenaries instead of keeping a strong army for himself. Because of this, many soldiers left or deserted the army to join the neighboring Ottoman Beylik. If someone wanted to work in the navy, it was better off to go to the Italians, as it was mostly controlled by the Genoese. In Constantinople, most of the homes were made of wood, and reused stones and bricks from old buildings. The emperor was trying to rebuild the city, so construction and carpenters were common sights on the streets. People could buy houses for about a year and a half salary, or become tenants and pay rent. People got what they paid for, so lower prices meant lower quality. Many apartments didn't have beds, only a bench that could be folded up and used as a seat. There were also a lot of religious icons available to buy, so almost every home had one. In some of the wealthier homes, women were kept separate from the rest of the household. These women usually covered up and wore veils over their faces. People in Constantinople would buy their clothes from shops or street vendors. The most common materials used for clothes were wool and linen. Silk was a fancy material that was mostly worn by the rich, but by the 15th century, even regular people could buy clothes made from low quality silk, mixed in with other fabrics. A commoner's wardrobe might include a loose dress or tunic, sandals or shoes, a jacket, a belt, and some jewelry like earrings or necklaces. The city was a hub for fashion and had a mix of styles from the Catholic West to the Muslim East. The rich liked to wear colorful and fancy clothes, including unique hats and turbans. The people of Constantinople ate a variety of foods. They liked to eat soup, bread, and salads. They also liked to eat boiled veggies, cereal, eggs, cheese, and fruit. Meat like ham, wild birds, and pork was not cheap, so the rich ate it often while the poor bought it for special occasions. People in Constantinople consumed a lot of wine, but it wasn't expensive. Different types of wine came from different places and could cost depending on how good they were. The best wine at the time came from the island of Crete. Walking around the streets of Constantinople provided scenes of tightrope walkers, animal trainers, and snake charmers. People liked to read stories in their homes, but books were expensive to buy. One popular story was called Belthandros and Costanza, a Byzantine romance. In the city, there was also a big racetrack called the Hippodrome, where people loved to watch chariot races, like how Europeans today love to watch football. Even in the city's earlier days in 532, wood chariot races helped cause the Nika riots, resulting in much of the city being burned. Around half of the people who lived in Constantinople knew how to read and write. Boys went to school until they were 14 years old, and girls went until they were 12. Girls learned how to read and write, but soon got married and took care of the home. Boys learned more difficult subjects like math and music. They usually followed their family's job and took over the family businesses when they got older. Boys went to school with a local teacher or had a private tutor. They studied the Bible and other old books like Homer's Iliad and Hesiod's Theogony and Works and Days. Much like how Rome was built on 7 hills, so was Constantinople. It was located on the western coast of the Sea of Marmara and the Bosporus Strait, a waterway connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Black Sea. This made Constantinople an important place for trade between Europe and Asia, so lots of merchants from Venice, Genoa, and Pisa came to do business there. The Golden Horn was a natural harbor that made it even easier for ships to dock and to do business. The main road in Constantinople was called the Meze, and it had lots of homes, shops, and landmarks like the Forum of Constantine, the Forum of Theodosius, the Ox, and Arcadius. The Forum of Constantine was the biggest and had tallest columns and statues, and people loved to go shopping in the Forum of Theodosius. Some other important landmarks include the Hippodrome, where people raced horses and chariots. The Hagia Sophia was a huge church that was spiritually important to the city. The Blachernae Palace was where the emperor's family lived, and the Great Palace was a big complex with important offices and ceremonial rooms, where the emperor conducted his business. On May 29, 1453, with the Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed, entered the city with his Turkish troops. By that time, the Byzantine emperor ruled no more than the land surrounding Constantinople and a few Greek islands, overshadowed by the infinitely more powerful Turkic Ottoman Beylik that surrounded it on all sides. Sultan Mehmed II began the siege in early April. Sieges of the time would last for months, however Mehmed brought cannons, a new sight of the time. The mighty Theodosian walls that protected Constantinople were no match for gunpowder, and the siege lasted for 55 days. As the Turks flooded the city, a Venetian observed that blood flowed through the streets like rainwater after a sudden storm. Corpses floated out to the sea like melons along a canal. An Ottoman officer noted that his troops took silver and gold vessels, precious stones, and all sorts of valuable goods and fabrics from the imperial palace and the houses of the rich. In this fashion, many people were delivered from poverty and made rich. The Byzantine Empire, no, the Roman Empire, was dead, and the city of the world's desire was taken by the sword. In the act of moving his capital to Constantinople, like how Constantine moved his to Byzantium, Mehmed declared that the Ottomans themselves were the inheritors of the Roman Empire until they too fell because of war and conquest in the 1920s. Mehmed ordered the forced relocation of artisans and craftsmen to the city. He ordered the construction of houses, baths, inns, marketplaces, workshops, and mosques. Along with this, Mehmed made great efforts to preserve the Orthodox faith and Greek majority in Constantinople. Christians were considered people of the book being the Quran, and were tolerated in Ottoman rule, and as long as they paid their taxes, they were given special rights like to worship in freedom and to live by their own laws. To reflect on this, Mehmed had Greeks and Armenians live in the city. Not only Greeks and Armenians were allowed in the city, but Italians were also encouraged to live in Constantinople. Genoa and the Ottomans had been long-standing allies. Genoa's main rival were the Venetians, whom the Ottomans were also on hostile footing. Another rival of the Venetians were the Florentines, making the Ottomans and the Florentines natural friends. The Italians of Constantinople lived in the prosperous neighborhood of Galata, which was spared from pillage during the siege and was given special privileges in return for economic cooperation. Galata was an example to the West that the Christians and the Muslims could live and cooperate with each other, despite centuries of relatively hostile relations prior. Constantinople was a truly multinational metropolis of the time. It was inhabited by Greeks, Bulgarians, Russians, Armenians, Italians, Latins, Jews, Turks, Persians, and Arabs. As a result, it was called many names. The Russians called it Tsargrad, the Armenians called it Constantinopolis. The Greeks still called it Constantinople, but the Turks called it Constantinople. In 1930, would the city adopt the name the world knows it by today, Istanbul.